So first of all, thank you for the opportunity for Microsoft to present at this session. I think there's a lot of very useful and I would say very educational for us in the first place, for myself. There's certainly a lot of information I can bring back to the companies and see how we can be better in terms of providing the appropriate technology, engaging with the industries in a meaningful way, and can be impactful with the business. With that, what I would like to do is, for today, we'll briefly cover some of the things. The area of focus is really around the reference architecture, but I think we need to start with some baseline, kind of put us on the same page on what Microsoft point of view is in terms of the challenges in the industry and how we're going about to address that. So Microsoft, most of us, I'm sure in the audience, think of us as a platform company delivering Office products, Exchange, Outlook, Word, and so on. I'm not sure if the audience here know how much we get involved and work with the oil and gas companies around the globe. So, and it is true that we're pretty young in terms of the industry experience. Back in 2002, which is a little bit less than 10 years ago, we had a US team that's focusing around understanding the industry, hiring people that are not necessarily technical technologists coming to the company to help us understand a little bit more around the business. And then in 2007, we really had the global presence. And in terms of what we do today, as you can see there, when I said, when it's on there, 180 global account managers, basically it means that we are working with 180 oil and gas organizations around the globe. So with that sort of engagement with the customers, there's quite a bit of information and trends and things that we have learned over the years. So with that, what we also do, guys like myself that have been in the industry also before, spending time in the trenches, building geotechnical applications and so on, share some of that challenges and things some of the previous speakers talking about in terms of how do you take technical workflow and have enabling collaborations in order to execute the business processes. So some of the things that we observe when you look at today, some of the changes, some of the complexity into IT infrastructure, whether because of applications and technology were introduced at different time, that doesn't lend itself to interoperability and information exchange very easily. The third bullet there, I think somebody mentioned also, is you don't see this type of monolithic application anymore, but the trend is actually you see more composite type of solutions. So applications from drilling or operations, production operations, they're in a form of a portal or dashboards, which compose of components from various vendors, right? And it's all part of the digital oilfield as you evolve it. Some companies, and in the European standards, evolve into integrated operation solutions, right? The cost of interoperability is high for the operators today because why? Because they have to do a lot of programmatic integrations. Whenever you bring in third-party solutions, you have to deal with that and getting information across the systems. And I think Jerry or somebody mentioned that, well, maybe actually Julian mentioned that the end users demanding connectivity experience out the box nowadays, right? So that's the last bullet item. The customers continue to demand open architectures and better interoperability from the solutions provider. Something we did also earlier this year, back in August, Microsoft and Accenture co-sponsor an anonymous survey in terms of computing trends. And we actually published this out, and it's available for you to download. I just want to highlight a couple of things, data points from that survey. As you can see up there, a high percentage of the responders indicating that there's definitely a need for simpler, more unified upstream computing environment. And if you look at on the left-hand side, the data access is really because of the, we all know about the data explosion. It comes from some of the progresses in terms of hardware even. One of our super major customer in the Gulf of Mexico, 2 years or 3 years ago, when they moved from satellite to fiber optic, you get to the teraday of telemetry data sampling per day. And so how do you do that? With the sheer volume of data, the information is there, but how do you consume that? You can't use the existing same traditional way of processing that. We need to take advantage of integrated workflow, automated workflow, and those are some of the things that we think that are the way to address and handle the data volume. So on the right-hand side, to Jerry's point, the result came back in, who would be better in order to provide this unified upstream computing environment. I don't know if you can read the fine print, but I'll point them out. The right-hand side is about the operating company. Second to the right is the Industry IT Standards Organization. Right in the middle is the IT product and services provider. And the second to the left is the Oilfield Services Organization. And the highest one respond on the left-hand side is all of those stakeholders, right? So it's really not just one particular type of organizations that can really help and deliver this. It's the collaboration between all of these organizations in order to deliver this environment. So also what we were looking at is, so what are some of the new IT standard technologies that will help improve efficiency in computing? Jerry is going to like the left-hand side because it talks about standards like WITSML and PROTOML. Has a very high percentage where people think that really can help improve efficiency in these solutions. And then second to the left is SOA. So those two are the highest. But if you look on the right, this is what we as an industry think is necessary. But on the right-hand side is about the adoption. So the orange, which is the top, is companies are not adopting this at all. In the middle is they're considering adopting. Already adopted is that green part. So you can see that at the highest it's only a quarter. So it's not really reflecting what we think is important and what we are doing. It's really representing what we think is important in order to deliver this environment. So what is Microsoft doing about it? Microsoft, we launched this initiative back in June in Barcelona, but we actually started a little bit earlier than that. Late of last year, we had some one-on-one conversation with our partners in the industry. For example, like Landmarks, Schlumberger, even some system integrators, Accenture, Wipro, Infosys, and so on. And kind of exploring this idea. What if we work together in, as an industry and come up with this common architecture? And it's not something that you're going to have day one, have a Bible and everybody out there is going to follow it, but it's really working together, evolving that and refining that because technology changes. So this is something that needs to be ongoing. How do we adopt that over time? So today we have 25 industry partners, Microsoft industry partners. That's composed of ISVs, system integrators, and even standard body. So we're working closely with Energistic as an example. On a monthly basis, we'll actually get together in a room and talk about some of the key topics that we think are important that need to be addressed in terms of the application infrastructure that we need to provide in order to deliver that highly interoperable environment for the future. So as I mentioned there, it's over time the group will work together and refine these and actually providing reference implementation, and our partners will take that and even commercialize that in terms of internalizing into their solutions and making that and bring it out into the as commercial offering. I'll have a couple of examples of what are some of the things that we're working on today. So the architecture itself, by the way, we have some white papers, there's resources later on, I'll talk about it. So what we are talking about is a coherent architecture, reference architecture. And if you look at this architecture, it's fairly generic in a sense that you have your data layers. You've seen some of our, even our peers in the industry have something very similar. You have your integration services, you have your business processing, and up to the presentation layer and so on. But what's key is that on the right-hand side, there's a set of guiding principles. So in other words, when we are working together in delivering this architecture, defining that, or even getting to some architecture patterns that we're recommending, and even get to the implementation, we need to take in those right-hand side, the principle into consideration. I'll give you an example. For example, if you look at the field-based applications where a particular field engineer that requires some planning, that you have the back office, you have your site location, there may be a field engineer that takes the application, some functionality that to get onto work in the refinery on a platform. There's definitely portion of that application or the data that needs to flow across from the various devices, whether it's from the back-end high-performance computing cluster, in terms of generating models and taking some components that get into the workstations, or even out to the engineer that's looking at doing the monitoring activities. Instead of every application developer needs to go out and build infrastructure to replicate or synchronize those data or bring in the data across the devices, what if you have some infrastructure, some foundational services that take care of that for you? So you wouldn't have to be spending time in developing that. And even having the same common accessibility in terms of getting to that pieces of information from other maybe partners or other products within the industry to be able to tap into those information to deliver their own capabilities. So how do we go about defining this architecture and developing that? So we look at it from actually working from the top-down and bottom-up approach. The top-down approach, this is the first example where we are leveraging what's already in existence today. We're definitely not in the business of reinventing the wheel, right? On the left-hand side, we decided to leverage Energistics E&P business process, which is a pretty well-known and common process actually provided by one of the super majors a few years back. And looking at in terms of the various services that you have from the business and translating that back to the type of applications that are in existence today or maybe missing. And from those applications, we actually even look at from what are some of the touch points. For example, let's say in a company you have a drilling applications or production app, let's say taking a production production optimization solutions. You might have components from OSI soft for real-time data, time series data coming in. You might have surveillance solutions from Schlumberger, but then there might be some other planning components from Landmark that a company would leverage, and maybe even their own algorithms that they want to plug in. So there are certain touch points between all of those products. How do you integrate that today? Well, that's actually happening today, but companies actually have to go through and programming all those connections and exchange those data on the back end. So that's the top-down approach where we identify those touch points and looking at what sort of facility we need to provide in order to enable or lower that integration hurdle. From the bottom up, what we do is we look at some of the scenarios. What are some of these applications today that our SIs partners are building for customers today? What sort of function in some of the real-world scenarios? So let's just start wiring those things up and see how does it, what does it take to connect those pieces together? And so what can we do to improve that situation to where we can reduce the amount of effort in order to connect those and wiring those things up? So that's our bottom-up approach. What I want to show you today is really just the three concepts that we look at and exploring. Sorry, let me back that up. Of course, my mouse. Because being a Microsoft guy, I always have to play with technology a little bit. So this is a little embedded demo video, but So what we're gonna be showing this demo is what we call declarative integration, geospatial context exchange, and the event aggregator. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna pause this real quick. Talk about those three concepts really quick. So what we call declarative integrations. What it means is, you know what programmatic is. You got to code them and connect and use the API to connect and to the various components. When we talk about declarative, it's the next level up where you can dynamically, a user and the end user, or maybe a solution designer can put together these components into a composite environment without any coding that's required in order to wire up and connecting those things at runtime, if you will. And another one is more of a static. So if you have an organization that has certain different role within that for the asset management team that want to have the portals look certain way, they can go through markup language and be able to use the markup language and design that page for an end user depending on which role they're in. So that's the first one. The second one also that we notice also with the trends of applications that's coming out nowadays, you see a lot of map-based driven navigation applications in this kind of portal or dashboard environment. And so, we also inspected the type of information of all of the other parts, components within that application. They have some geospatial aspect to it, knowledge to it. So what if we have a consistent way of exchanging these geospatial information so then you can navigate through and be able to imagine you have developing a component or a part and drop it into this environment. You say, I'm geospatial enabled. So then and anytime you are getting information coming, passing in that has location-based information, you know how to go back and do whatever you need to do in terms of whether it's a workflow or pull up the appropriate information and render yourself accordingly without even any specific connectivity that's required. And the third one is the concept of event aggregation. And what that is a publisher-subscriber architecture in scale. So you have, within this one process, you have ability of having a component that's a publisher publishing out information or consuming certain information, based on the topics that you declare. Or you can scale that out into a single workstation where you have a web-based application like this, communicating with a geotechnical application like, SizeWorks or Petrel. And then you can even scale it out across the enterprise in terms of a service bus where you might have downstream financial forecasting or modeling applications that might be interested in certain information or maybe update data events that's being triggered off. So those are the three concepts that we are working on and looking at the infrastructure component services that maybe we can design and implement and have that embed, our partners start embedding that into their solutions. So this example here is a technical search application, a little mini application. So you have right in the middle is the Esri Silverlight web part. By selecting a region, they actually broadcast the selected region. And on the right-hand side, it's another part by Point Cross is one of our partners, be able to come back with the results and list. And there's some searching criteria, and down here is the what comes back is the unstructured data that's tagged, has geospatial tagging. So basically they pull back the appropriate number of lists. So you can continue to filter down, but the idea is all of these components would drop into this canvas and then basically they just specify that they are geospatial enabled, so they can understand and know how to consume geospatial information that's been sent out, and setting themselves to that context and be able to navigate around that. So here's an example where they select a particular county and they receive, and it goes back and forth. A component can be a publisher and also a consumer. In this case, some of the information actually being sent back to the Esri web part so then it can just render the, based on the filter and narrow down to that area of interest. So I think that's that one. What I want to quickly also show is where we're going across the process boundary. So this is a demo that we work with. Open Spirit is one of our partners in this initiative also. What Open Spirit does is here they have a services that actually listen to the event that's been selected inside SharePoint. By the way, this is a SharePoint application if you haven't recognized the layout. And each of these components are web parts. What it's doing right now is those 3 wells that were selected were sent out to the Open Spirit services. Open Spirits actually have that information sent over and be able to open up and render the appropriate wells that were selected inside the SharePoint environment, in the web environment. See if it can show up. So by the way, this is because Patrol is actually a fully Windows client-based application. Here it's actually within the Windows environment, but it could be easily very much launching a Unix applications or an application on a Linux workstation. Let's see. Right. So what do we see in terms of customer benefits from this initiative? One thing that I haven't mentioned so far, as mentioned, the ISV, Microsoft, the SIs, and our standard body industry partners. But we're also in the process of forming an advisory board, which we are inviting customers, operating companies to act as advisors and provide us guidance and share with priorities and where we should be focusing on in terms of working on some of these infrastructure services. So we really think that with the customer engaging, the industry can be influenced, and with all the key stakeholders in the same room, we have the ability to get to some convergence around the approach and processes and how we deliver and improve interoperability. That will definitely drive down the TC, total cost of ownership when our customers have to adopt third-party solutions, and definitely the ability to pick and choose best of breed. It's always our super major would love to have that. We want to be able to choose best of breed, right? And cross-domain collaboration workflow. So this is talking about because of this is a collaboration at the industry level, then you can see more and more, especially when we're talking about the trends in the industry where you're getting to increasingly joint activities because the easy oil is there over, you're getting some more high risk and activities, and so we're gonna see more joint ventures and cross-organizational collaborations that's taking place. This we'll believe will also impact and allow those type of activity, enable that to happen much easier. From the solution provider, because this is something that we're actively engaging with our customers also in terms of the architecture approach and recommendation, what we are hoping to see is down the road is when an industry solution provider step in and presenting the solution to the customer, they don't have to go through that technology proof, but more around the business value of their solutions and the IPs that they're providing on top of that. That's a differentiator, and that's basically pointing to the last bullet items there. Also in terms of the benefits for the solution provider, where our partners doesn't have to individually build their own workflow, custom workflow engines or other components in order to provide those type of infrastructure services to the application. We do have some white papers, 2 white papers that published already out there around this initiative, and I have the URL there in terms of the homepage for that initiative. that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you have any
that's-
questions, or we
Well, John is
we
over
used to
here,
go
okay,
to the
yeah.
panel.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I invite Paul and Hossam and Julian and Jerry to join me up here for a conversation?
Great.